Guys, well, the long-awaited BRS Replicant review. That's right, finally time to review, and yes, as you can see, it's that time of the year again, so we got the pumpkins in the background, just because this is my tablecloth, and I don't want to keep moving it every time I make a video. So, hopefully you're feeling festive like I am. So, this is the box it comes in, if you've never ordered a BRS Replicant before, and it's just a plain old cardboard box. Right, you get a little tissue paper in there, and you get a card. Rules of engagement. Number 1, no one comply to all applicable state and local laws pertaining to the use and ownership of products. Number 2, user or owner assumes all risks in handling and use of products. And number 3, product is warranted for manufacturer defect. On the other side, of course, BRS, which if you don't know, stands for Blade Runner Systems. There's a website right there. I'm going to link everyone to the website down below so you can see all the different Balisongs. If you are new to them, they have a lot of great Balisongs and they're extremely popular for a reason. Alright, so let's talk about the knife. This one, as you can see, has carbon fiber scales, which are absolutely beautiful. Alright, there are 3 different types of replicants. The carbon fiber version, I believe, is the most expensive one at about $345. They also have a base model, which is just a black G10 for like $270-ish. And then they also have Replicant Premiums, which have a huge array of different color combinations. Some of them are two-tone, where the liners are colored, and you can see that, you know, obviously through the G10 scales. Like I said, a bunch of different color combos. You can always check their website to see what's available, as well as their Instagram page. They are very active on Instagram. I do follow them, so check them out over there as well. But then those, you know, range in price as well. So you're looking at anywhere from about, I don't know, $270 to $350. You know, it just depends on what version you want. But when I was deciding which replicant that I wanted to try out, I went with the carbon fiber version because I kind of figured the carbon fiber would end up being a little smoother than the G10. Now, I don't have a G10 one to compare it to, but I have to imagine, I mean, pretty much all G10 is textured somehow, and this carbon fiber is extremely smooth to the touch. Now, you can see the designs that are in the handle scales itself. Couple circles down here. We have this shape right there with some holes underneath it, as well as these slots. These do actually offer some grip. Okay, so when you're flipping this and manipulating it, you can feel the edges of these cutouts here. Okay, so not only, you know, is it visual, and this has titanium liners in it, or the actual frame, I guess you can consider, of the Balisong is titanium. So if you want to color those at some point, you can certainly do so. It's going to give it another different look. But you can obviously see the liners through the you know, holes in the scales. All right, you can see the hardware here. What's really nice is that they offer a pocket clip. I believe it's titanium for like 20 bucks. All right, and it comes with a plate and some hardware, so you can pop this pocket clip in any of the 4 positions here. All right, so if you do buy a replicant and at a later date you want to get a pocket clip or something, or even when you buy it, you can buy the pocket clip if you decide that you want to carry it. Even if it's just around the house, it's just nice to have it clipped to the pocket as opposed to just, you know, fumbling around inside of it. So that's pretty cool. It's some forethinking, you know what I mean? Make a design where, you know, the clip is basically optional. Now, some of the premium ones I think do come with a pocket clip. Again, you know, you can refer to the website and stuff. But yeah, I mean, the biggest question that everyone's gonna have, and the one question that was already answered way before I ever got one, is it a good flipper? 100%. Absolutely. Now, a lot of people already know this name because of that, because it's such a great flippable Balisong. This is a very high-end Balisong. I do have a Benchmade Model 63 here, which I'm going to do for a little bit of comparison, just in fit finish, because can it flip well? Yes, it can definitely flip well. No one needs to, you know, hear me say that. That's a well-known thing among the Balisong community. In fact, Blade Runner Systems has kind of become the new standard because Benchmade doesn't put out as many models, you know, they're not as available. Some people don't like, you know, certain models that are available, or at least, you know, current production models. Obviously, all the old Benchmade Balisongs are extremely, you know, sought after. People are looking for original 42s, spring latch 42s. I mean, even some of the limited edition ones, like one of my favorite Balisongs from Benchmade was the 42 SS, which was done in stainless steel. And they had the Zen pins. Really, I mean, there's a huge market for high-end Balisongs. There's so much demand And for many, many years now, there's just been really low supply. And of course, there's other high-end options out there which are very sought after, like the Archangel from Cold Steel, and you know, you can get into over $1,000 for some of these Balisongs. And they originally weren't that much. They were a couple $100, you know, but because everyone's looking for them, you know, they become extremely expensive. But now you have a company here, and they came out with, you know, production Balisongs that they can barely keep in stock because so many people want them. Once people got a hold of these things, actual flippers, you know what I mean, people who are very respected in the flipping community, they get these things, they love them, you know, word gets out, everyone wants one, they get them, they love them too. It happens to be that if you want a quality Balisong that does not fall apart, you just have to spend a lot of money. There's really no way around it. People ask me all the time, hey, you know, is there a good Balisong that's not going to fall apart for like under $100? Kind of, you know, there's a couple, you know, middle of the road Balisongs, but they really cannot compete. They cannot compare to these, you know, like, you know, some of the Bradley Kimuras, they're nice. They're not a bad Balisong, but they're not on the level of this, you know, or a Benchmade. They're not, you know, but they're not that bad. Some of the Balisongs from Bear & Son, not the worst Balisongs ever. They're definitely better than your $15 or $20 flea market Balisong, but again, they're nowhere near this quality level, you know? So anyway, if you are new to Balisongs, let me give you this advice right here, okay? If you never flipped a Balisong in your life, and you see all these people flipping them, and you're looking on YouTube videos and Instagram and wherever else, and you're impressed and you want to try it yourself, you want to have fun, you want to join in on the club, the best thing you can possibly do is go out and buy a cheap Balisong. And a lot of people would disagree with that. They would say, no, don't waste your money. No, I'm going to tell you right now, you don't know if you're really going to be into flipping. Everyone likes the idea of flipping. But half the people, you know, they get a Balisong, they get frustrated and they don't like it, whatever, or they just lose interest, you know. So my suggestion is to go out and buy a cheap Balisong, flip it for a little while, okay? And if you like the thing, yeah, save up the money and invest, because there is really no middle ground. There's no company out there making knives to this quality level, you know, for, I don't know, $100. It just doesn't happen. You're talking knives that are $300, $400, $500, you know, and up. So it's not a cheap hobby to get into these high-end, you know, Balisongs, but that's what they are. They're high-end knives. Just because you can flip them and have fun, you know, it doesn't take away from the fact that they are very, very high-end knives. They're high-end folders, okay? They just don't have a traditional locking system. So, you know, that's the first question people are going to have: is it a good flipper? Yes, 110%. It is extremely smooth. Now, what I want to compare really between the Replicant and, let's say, this Benchmade, as far as how smooth they are, just as smooth, if not smoother, to actually flip. Okay, this is just as much of a pleasure as this one. Also, the reason I broke out the Benchmade is to show the actual, you know, fit and finish of this knife. You're talking about, you know, just how the materials are finished. You can see both of these have the rounded spines. I mean, if I just keep the blades on here, I mean, they look identical. It's very, very well done in both knives. They're on the same level as far as fitment. If you took this BRS logo off this blade, and I never knew about the company or anything like that, and you put a Benchmade logo on there, I'd believe it, 110%. I'd say, wow, yeah, Benchmade came out with a really cool new model. So that's another thing that people have been asking me over and over again when they saw that I had a Replicant. They said, hey, look, you know, I'm thinking about getting a Benchmade. Is it Replicant better? Is it not as good as a Benchmade? Should I stick with Benchmade? They're on the same level. If I really had to nitpick, the BRS is probably just a step above. It just feels just like that much smoother, like just a hair. It really does. Now, obviously, comparing these two, the weights are completely different. This is extremely heavy in comparison to the this particular one with the carbon fiber. But yeah, I mean, it's fit and finish, overall smoothness. They're both extremely flippable. This one doesn't need to be talked about. People know Benchmades are great Balisongs, so I'll put that away now. And I've compared it to this one. But yeah, I mean, it's there. Is it worth the money? Yeah, absolutely it's worth the money. It's just not everyone's going to be able to fork over that kind of money. That's really what it comes down to is, I really want one, but I don't have that money to invest in it. Or a lot of times there's a lot of teenagers that get into stuff like this, you know, and they just don't have the funds, you know. They asked mom and dad said no, and, you know, maybe they have a job, but there's other important things in life at that point. Saving up for your first car, you know, maybe saving for college, stuff like that. And plus, you know, kids want to do things all the time. So saving money is kind of hard. But yeah, I mean, that's really the ultimate question. Is it worth it? Yes, 110% worth it. Now, here comes another question, right? Well, I kind of want a Replicant, but, you know, is the carbon fiber version worth it? The extra money to get the carbon fiber scales? Well, again, without handling the G10, I have a good assumption it's going to be grippy. So what you're basically choosing, you're choosing between a smoother finished handle as opposed to something with a little bit of grip. That becomes personal preference. There is no right or wrong there. The carbon fiber, does it class it up a little bit? Yeah, it does. I mean, it's really, really nice. It looks great on the knife, and it is extra smooth. You know, it feels great. My personal way of thinking, if you're going to spend 270 bucks on a G10 version, what's another almost 100 bucks? You know, 350. You know, that's how I look at it. I mean, at that point, even if it's a user knife, even if you're, you know, beating it up and flipping it every day and actually cutting stuff with it, you know, you spend the extra money to get the better version, I guess. That's my personal preference. You know, if like the G10 version was 150 bucks, then it's a little bit different. There's more of a price gap there, you know. But again, once you're spending over 200-300 bucks for a knife, you know, get the one you like the most. If you like the look of the G10, the one thing the G10 does have is all the different color combinations. Carbon fiber is carbon fiber. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, with the titanium, you could color this titanium if you wanted to. You know, you can have it professionally done, or you could do it yourself. And you can get a different theme if you want a black and gold. I think that'd be very cool. You know, if you colored that tie gold, that'd be nice. So you can still customize it yourself. But a lot of the G10 versions, the premium Replicants, they're really cool. You know, I love white G10 with any color. Doesn't even matter what it is. Blue, green, yellow, orange, pink. Doesn't really make a difference. I think that's super classy, super cool looking. You know, just as cool as the carbon fiber. So it really just becomes personal preference. The biggest thing I could tell you is, as far as collectability, whatever is made the least will probably hold the most, you know, retained value. So, you know, if you're buying this as a collectible to hang on to and keep in your collection, and who knows, maybe you have to sell it in, you know, 10 years or something, yeah, maybe the carbon fiber ones will be a little bit more sought after, maybe not. I really don't know. It's hard to tell, you know. You shouldn't really buy knives as investments. There's a lot of other ways to invest your money, but I know some people personally that do that. They just, when something comes out, it's popular and there's not a whole lot of them, they buy a couple, they keep them mint, you know, pristine condition in a safe, only to sell them, you know, 5-10 years later. If that's your thing, you know, get one of each, I guess, if you're spending lots of money on investing in knives. But I say obviously buy them and use them. And I would say 99% of the people who are buying this knife are using them. There's always going to be that person that just wants a cool collection, and they really, either they can't flip that well or they don't really have that much interest, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that at all. As a collectible knife, yeah, it's extremely collectible. It's a small company. They have limited runs on stuff. They're not making thousands and thousands and thousands of these models like Benchmade. You know what I mean? So, yeah, if that's your thing, that's cool too. But I would imagine that if you're clicking on this video, it's because you're thinking about maybe buying one, you're interested in knowing what I think of it. I think it's awesome. And beyond flipping, it is extremely usable, okay? And as you guys saw, I did my little demo throwing into a tree, which I'm sure was cringeworthy for a lot of people. Oh my God, I'd die for a Replicant. You're throwing it at the tree. Well, I wanted to check out the tip here. All right, this is in 154 cm. Well, let me give you some specs here, just in case you don't know them, but obviously you can find this information elsewhere. But it's 10 inches overall, like on the nose, almost perfect. The blade is 4.5 inches. It's a 154 cm. Okay, it's 0.13 inches thick. All right, 5.5 inches on our handle here, and it weighs 4.7 ounces. And I do believe the carbon fiber version is slightly, not much, but slightly lighter than the G10 or the base Replicants. This is made in the United States of America. Okay, again, one of the reasons why that price is a little bit high. Okay, obviously can't compete with things that are made outside the U.S. Just, you know, production costs are more, wages are more to pay employees, stuff like that. But yeah, our 154 cm is extremely, extremely usable. It's a great steel. There's no arguing that. Lots and lots of companies using it. The heat treat is absolutely perfect on this thing. It's still razor sharp, okay? I do really like the blade design here. Okay, I've heard this referred to as a scorpion tail, but basically we have a Americanized modified Tanto with a swedge, which is really, really cool. It's different. And they use this design on a lot of different models that they have, which is very smart in my opinion, because they're kind of, you know, establishing this design with their company. When you see this blade design, you think BRS now, you know what I mean? They do have, if you're not into it, they do have an alt version, I believe, which just has an alternate blade style. So, you know, you could check that out if this is not your thing. But I think it's cool. I like things that are new and different, and this is definitely new and different. I've never seen this particular style Tanto with a, you know, a curved swedge like that. It's nice because you have, obviously Tantos are very, I don't know, it's kind of robotic to me. Just very straight lines, right? No curvature, no organicness to them, if that's a thing. But then you have this nice organic curvature, and it creates a ridiculously pointy tip. Now, as far as flipping a Balisong, particularly if you're into aerials, that can be quite scary. That tip will go into your hand. You won't even know it's in your hand until way later. All right, if you do an aerial and this thing comes down straight at you, it's probably digging in all the way to the grind. All right, and you're not going to know until you realize that you're not holding your knife, but it's still in your hand, quite literally. So the dangers in flipping, it goes through the roof, okay? And that's another thing too, and people ask me all the time, you know, hey, I'm getting into it, should I get a really good one? Probably not, because you're probably going to cut your finger off. If you've never flipped before and you're watching these videos and you're trying all this crazy stuff and you're, you know, not into getting a trainer, which I do recommend for some people, it just depends, but there's two ways of thinking there. Obviously, a trainer's going to keep your hand safe, and everyone wants to have that safety net, but part of it, for a lot of people, is the danger of getting cut. You're not necessarily going to mess up as much when you know that you're going to get cut really bad. Some people say if you start, you know, flipping with a trainer, you get very sloppy, and, you know, because you know you're safe, so you're doing all kinds of crazy crap, and you're not getting the good muscle memory you need, you know, from flipping and not cutting yourself, you know. But anyway, that's personal preference. I do usually recommend a trainer for people because at the end of the day, I mean, there's some hardcore people that are just completely cut up. I mean, it looks like you were shaking hands when they were scissor hands. But, you know, for most people, you don't want to get cut. It's not like anyone wants to get cut. It's just part of it. It's kind of like a respect earned when you flip a live blade, especially something like this that will rip you apart. There's a respect there. You know, when you see someone flipping, you know, a live bladed replicant like this, you know, for me anyway, I see it and I'm like, you know, I respect that person because I know the danger they're putting themselves into. And that's kind of the allure too. Some people like that, you know, the fact that it is kind of dangerous. That makes it cool, I suppose, for some people. But yeah, this is a nasty blade in that it will pierce very easily and it will slice very easily, okay? Very, very usable blade. Cut a ton of cardboard with this and some plastic jugs, some water jugs and stuff, and then just zip through it like nothing. No problems at all. I even cut some zip ties. No blade damage. Close and show you this. No chipping or anything like that. It's perfect. And that tip, like I said, I'm very, very surprised how strong that is. I was hoping it wasn't, but I kind of expected that maybe when I was throwing it into the tree that it would snap off. And I didn't want it to snap off, of course, but I just wanted to see how delicate it was. You know, it's important to me with a Balisong that it is usable. And again, for most people, they don't really care. This thing could be, you know, a soft steel that doesn't really hold an edge, but there's very few people out there who are into knives of this caliber. If you're going to spend 350 bucks on a Balisong, most people know what they're getting. You're not just buying that on a whim. It's not like, oh yeah, that'd be cool, I'll drop 350. I mean, there's not a lot of people with that kind of money. Mostly they're people who are buying this knife, they're saving it up. They're paycheck to paycheck, they're just waiting and they're patiently collecting that money so they can buy their dream Balisong. You know what I mean? Hardcore flippers, hardcore Balisong guys and gals out there are pinching pennies and rubbing them together to get something like this. You know what I mean? So when they do finally get it, they have a great respect for it. They have, you know, they're really just appreciative, I think, of it. Not a lot of people just buy knives like this, you know, out of the blue. And obviously it's not something that's just you can walk into a store and buy either. So there's a nice allure there as well. And I do believe these, all BRS models will be a collectible, you know, knife down the line. Especially as the company grows and, you know, certain models just aren't there anymore. It just happens, you know. things evolve, and maybe this won't be available in 15 or 20 years from now, and people will remember them back in the day. Like there's so many Balisongs that I've had that I really regret getting rid of, and I wish I could have them, but they're like 2, 3, 4, or 5 times the price they originally were. Microcheck Tacken, that's definitely on that list for me. Some of the old Benchmades I used to have, I can't tell you how many Benchmade 42s I've had, T-latch and spring latch versions, all different limited edition ones. I mean, oh God, so many different Balisongs I regret getting rid of. But yeah, so when you do buy a high-end Balisong and you're really into the hobby and you stick it, with the hobby, it's a good idea to, to probably hang on to those knives if possible. But hey, things happen, A lot of times you sell stuff just because you have to, not because you want to. All right, so getting back to talking about this knife, one thing I want to focus about a little bit here are these Zen pins, okay? If you notice, there's no pins going through the blade here. That's usually called the Tang pin. A very common problem with cheap Balisongs is that the pins, or the Tang pins that are through your knife, this is the Tang of the knife, they get deformed. When you're flipping your knife around, they get smacked by the handles all the time, and when they deform, they misshapen, then you lose the perfect gap between your handles. You need this gap so that your latch can lock, and have, tension against it so it doesn't flop around. If you notice, most cheap Balisongs, your latch is flopping around everywhere and it doesn't lock up anymore. That's because your Tang pins are probably squished and you don't have that space anymore, okay? So with this knife, it uses Zen pins, which I'll explain what that is in a second. But you can see it locks up absolutely perfect. Latch does not want to fall off, okay? In fact, when you open it, it's got a nice little pop to it. And same thing in the closed position, okay? So if you're carrying your knife around, you don't want it to open up in your pocket, same deal. It's not going to open up no matter how hard you shake this. There's a lot of tension built up on here, so you actually have to, lift the latch and it kind of pops open. You can see, by the way, this latch is not a spring latch, okay? It's a loose T-style latch, and I really, really like the design on this. It's kind of a triangular thing going on, but it is perfectly smooth, and what I like about that too is that when you go to release this latch, it's just really, really comfortable. That whole edge is smoothed out, but it gives you enough of a ledge to push on it, so it's not slippery. But anyway, going back to the Zen pins, you can see there's 2 pins that go through the handles here as opposed to the Tang of the blade. And those pins line up with the blade choil. And also on the back of the knife, there's another little notch cut out here. Okay, so you can see the pin in the handle as they rotate around. Whoop, I don't hit my camera. It lines up perfectly with that notch. Okay, so this prevents the back of the blade from smacking the inside of the handles, as well as the more important side, okay, prevents the actual edge from touching inside of our handles at all. And of course it creates that perfect tension so that our knife can stay locked. I really like them. I think they're more effective as well. So pretty cool. You can see this is an open frame here, okay? So obviously full liners on this as opposed to, milled out handles or anything. And of course we have our spacers on the back here. Again, fit and finish is absolutely perfect on this knife. Of course, our blade does not come in contact with anything. And again, because of that insert, stops there as well, creates a latch gate. So our blade never comes in contact with anything that we don't intend to cut while we're flipping. So another thing I wanted to talk about here, of course, is how much play is in this knife, and it barely exists, okay? That is as much play as there is. Now, I've talked about this before too, is when you have play in a Balisong, you don't want the inside of this handle to go past the inside of this handle. And then we use the Benchmade here as a pointer, so you can see what I'm talking about here. All right, so imagine this right here, this line, if this went completely across, you don't want it to pass this line right here, okay? That's as much play as you'd ever want in a Balisong, and this doesn't come anywhere close to that, okay? Almost no play at all. I've been flipping this a lot on and off since I've had it. It is not loosened up at all. I can assume that they have some kind of Loctite in their pivot hardware. But with the Benchmade here, this Benchmade actually has a little bit more play. It's still not too much. You can see it's still off, okay, and creating a line. So again, the inside of the top here, lining up with the bottom of this side. It doesn't quite get there, so it's still a good amount of play, but it's still a little bit more. And again, this is a factory 63. All right, this one I did flip, but not that much. Actually, I have way more flipping time on this one. and this one has a little bit more play right out of the box. So even though they're both, you know, totally fine, this one has less play. So yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful knife. It is absolutely ridiculously sharp. It is ridiculously comfortable. It's ridiculously smooth. It's ridiculous, really. Some people might say the price is ridiculous as well, but it's all relevant, you know. The Replicant's relevant, and if that's the caliber of knife that you want to buy, that's the price tag that it has on it, and they fly off the shelves. You know what I mean? These do not stay in stock, and that's for a reason. People are buying them to flip them because they're amazing flippers. They're amazing knives to actually use, and yeah, I mean, I highly recommend them. They're just really, really great company. And the coolest thing about these knives is it's not by mistake. It's not an accident that these things came out the way they did. This company is run by some of the best Balisong flippers, a couple OGs from back in the day, YouTube Balisong OGs anyway. These guys know what they're talking about, okay? These are battle tested. These things are used. The people at Benchmade, I'm not saying that no one flips Balisongs at Benchmade. They make some really nice Balisongs. They always have, always will, I'm sure. However, I know that the guys that are making these knives, they live to flip. That's all they do. They flip Balisongs, they go to work, they have their job, and then they flip Balisongs. So they know what they're talking about, they know what they're doing, and that's why this company is so successful so far with their Balisong stuff, is because they're all flippers. They all know what they're talking about. And above all, they're looking for a knife that is extremely flippable, and they've nailed it. They absolutely nailed it. So this one's no exception. This particular one obviously just has a carbon fiber, but all the Replicants, I would imagine, being built the same, is a very, very good buy if you're looking for a high-end Balisong. The number one is not going to fall apart. Number two, you can actually use. You can use it, it's going to maintain an edge, you know, it's going to cut stuff very well. But yeah, it's a good investment if that's where you're going. If you're going for a nice Balisong, this is definitely a cool option. So that is my review on the Replicant. So thanks for watching, guys. Of course, I appreciate your comments down below. If you have the Replicant, whether it's this version or one of the premiums, let me know what you think of it. But I have yet to hear one person complain about any of their Balisongs as far as quality or performance. You know, they just work, they flip and flip and flip, and I know there's people putting thousands and thousands of hours of flipping into these things. So I know they're durable, even though I don't have the time to do that. I know they're going to withstand that because, like I said, I've yet to hear one falling apart. It's just a very nice high-end knife. Yes, it does carry that high price tag, but it's justified, in my opinion. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon. Take care.